Step back into the 1970s and explore the resourceful grocery list that fueled Black families when budgets were tight. This wasn't just about saving money. It was a testament to culinary ingenuity and pride, turning overlooked cuts like neck bones and ham hocks into rich, flavorful essentials, and stretching every dollar with staples like powdered milk and bulk bags of cornmeal. From the resourcefulness of day-old bread to the reliability of government commodity cheese, these 20 items tell a powerful story of survival, tradition, and the deep, satisfying flavor that grandmothers knew how to pull from the simplest ingredients. 20 groceries Black families bought in the 70s when money was tight. Neck bones. Families knew that the meat counter held treasures that others overlooked. Neck bones, bony, humble cuts from pork or beef, cost pennies per pound, dismissed by those who could afford prime cuts. But in Black kitchens, these bones became the foundation of meals that could feed a household for days. The preparation was an art form passed down through generations. Grandmothers slow-cooked neck bones with onions, garlic, and bay leaves until the meat fell tender from the bone. The resulting broth was liquid gold, thick with flavor and collagen. That broth became the base for rice, beans, or greens. Every fragment of meat was precious, picked clean and savored. Neck bones taught that value was not determined by price tags. They taught patience, good food took time, and shortcuts produced inferior results. The family gathered around neck bones understood that dignity existed in every meal, that resourcefulness was a form of genius, and that the best cooks knew how to coax abundance from scarcity. Those bones, simmered with love and skill, became testimony to the alchemy of Black cooking traditions. 2. Dried navy beans. In every pantry, bags of dried navy beans sat waiting, small, white, and dense with potential. These beans cost almost nothing, lasted indefinitely, and could stretch to feed unexpected guests. They were insurance against hunger, quiet soldiers in the battle against empty stomachs. Mother soaked beans overnight, transforming hard pellets into swollen pearls ready for cooking. The next day, those beans simmered for hours with ham hocks, onions, and peppers, filling the house with an aroma that promised comfort. Served over rice or wood cornbread, navy beans became a complete meal. Protein, fiber, and satisfaction in a single bowl. Navy beans taught planning and foresight. They taught that the cheapest ingredients, given time and technique, could rival expensive dishes in flavor and nutrition. The family eating navy beans was not suffering. They were celebrating ancestral wisdom, connecting to generations who had always known that beans were wealth you could stow on a shelf. Those beans represented survival transformed into sustenance, poverty transformed into pride. 3. Chicken backs and necks. While others purchased chicken breasts and thighs, Black families headed straight for the backs and necks, the parts butchers sold in bulk bags for pocket change. These bony pieces seemed like scraps, but experienced cooks knew better. They held concentrated flavor and enough meat to matter when every penny counted. Chicken backs and necks were destined for the stock pot or the frying pan. Fried, they became crispy treats, the skin crackling with seasoning, small bits of dark meat clinging to bones that children learned to navigate expertly. Boiled, they created stock so rich it needed little else to become soup. Nothing was wasted. Even the bones went to neighbors' dogs or into gardens as fertilizer. These humble cuts taught respect for the whole animal and the importance of using everything. They taught that waste was a luxury Black families could not afford and did not desire. The chicken back, Dismissed by the mainstream, became a symbol of culinary intelligence. It proved that knowing how to cook mattered more than having expensive ingredients. Those backs and necks, handled with skill, fed families with dignity and flavor that expensive cuts could not surpass. 4. Fatback. Wrapped in white butcher paper, slabs of fatback, pure pork fat with streaks of meat, sat in refrigerators and freezers, ready to transform any dish. This was not cooking oil from a bottle. This was flavor in solid form, rendered slowly to produce grease that made everything better. Cooks cut fat back into chunks, rendering it in cast iron skillets until the fat melted and the remaining pieces turned into cracklings, crispy, salty, addictive. That rendered fat became the medium for frying chicken, cooking eggs, seasoning vegetables, and creating the foundation of gravies. A little fatback went a long way, making a pound last weeks. Fatback taught the principle of flavor concentration. It taught that fat was not the enemy, but the vehicle for making affordable food taste extraordinarily. The family that cooked with fatback understood traditional food ways, understood that their ancestors had developed these techniques for reasons deeper than preference. This was survival cuisine, elevated to art. That slab of fatback represented connection to history, to people who had made much from little and passed down the knowledge to keep their descendants strong. 5. Grits in bulk. 5-pound grits was a staple, never allowed to run out. These ground corn kernels cost almost nothing and could appear at any meal, breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Grits were versatility incarnate, a blank canvas for whatever flavors the cook chose to add. Morning grits came with butter and salt, sometimes sugar, sometimes cheese. Evening grits might be served alongside fried fish or smothered in gravy with onions. Shrimp and grits was reserved for special occasions, but plain grits with eggs fed families every ordinary Tuesday. The preparation was simple: boiling water, steady stirring, patience while they thickened to creamy perfection. Grits taught comfort and adaptability. They taught that simple food, prepared with care, could anchor a meal and satisfy hunger completely. The family eating grits was connected to Southern agricultural traditions, to indigenous knowledge passed through African hands, to a food that has sustained people through slavery, Reconstruction, Jim Crow, and beyond. That bag of grits was more than grain. It was continuity, heritage, and the promise that no one would go hungry as long as corn could be ground and water could boil. 6. Pig feet. Pickled or fresh, pig feet occupied a special place in Black grocery lists. These gelatinous extremities cost next to nothing, dismissed by those who did not know their potential. But in skilled hands, pig feet became delicacies, tender, flavorful, and satisfying in ways that transcended their humble appearance. Fresh pig feet were cleaned meticulously, then slow cooked for hours until the meat and skin achieved melt-in-your-mouth texture. Pickled pig feet came in jars, vinegar-soaked and ready to eat, a snack, a side dish, or a protein boost when money was too tight for anything else. Children watched adults expertly navigate the bones, extracting every morsel. Pig feet taught that beauty standards applied to food were often rooted in class and prejudice rather than actual quality. They taught that foods dismissed by the dominant culture often held the deepest flavors and the richest traditions. The family eating pig feet was not desperate. They were culturally grounded, honoring ingredients that connected them to West African cuisine and centuries of Black culinary ingenuity. Those pig feet represented resistance against dissemination, proof that you did not need to abandon your food ways to prove your worth. 7. Cornmeal. The yellow bag of cornmeal set beside the flour, equally essential. This ground corn became cornbread, hush puppies, fish batter, and hot water cornbread, crispy golden discs fried quickly when bread had run out and payday was days away. Cornmeal was emergency rations and everyday staple simultaneously. Cornbread baked in cast iron skillets came out with crispy edges and tender centers, perfect for soaking up pot liquor or crumbling into buttermilk. Hush puppies, seasoned cornmeal batter dropped into hot oil, accompanied fish fries. Hot water cornbread required only cornmeal, water, and grease, transforming into impromptu bread in minutes. Cornmeal was never fancy, but it was always there. Cornmeal taught reliability and tradition. It connected families to the agricultural South, to Native American influences, to African cooking techniques adapted to American ingredients. The family that always had cornmeal was prepared for any circumstance. That bag represented security, the knowledge that even in the leanest times, bread could be made. Cornmeal was humble, but it was mighty, a golden powder that transformed into golden sustenance, filling bellies and honoring history with every batch. 8. Canned mackerel. Stacked in pantries, cans of mackerel offered affordable protein that lasted indefinitely. This fish was not fresh salmon or tuna. It was oily, strong flavored, and required a specific palate and preparation method. But for families stretching dollars, canned mackerel was treasure. Mackerel was fried into crispy patties mixed with cornmeal and onions, or cooked with tomatoes and served over rice. Some ate it straight from the can, bones and all. Those soft bones provided calcium, nothing wasted. The distinct flavor was assertive, but seasoning and technique made it delicious. Children learned to appreciate it, understanding that preference was a luxury. Canned mackerel taught acceptance and adaptability. It taught that survival sometimes meant eating foods that were not your favorite, but doing so with gratitude and creativity. The family that turned canned mackerel into satisfying meals demonstrated culinary skill and mental resilience. Those cans represented preparedness and pragmatism. They proved that chef's stable protein could sustain families through weeks when fresh meat was unaffordable. Mackerel was not glamorous, but it was sustaining, and that was what mattered most. 9. White rice, 25-pound bags. The enormous bag of white rice sat in the pantry corner, lasting months and serving as the foundation for countless meals. Rice was cheap, filling, and versatile, a vehicle for sauces, gravies, and stews that transformed it from bland to extraordinary. Families bought the biggest bags available because rice never went bad and always got used. Rice appeared at nearly every dinner, under smothered chicken, alongside red beans, beneath gumbo, mixed with butter and sugar for a quick dessert. It stretched expensive ingredients, turning one pork chop's worth of gravy into a meal for 4. The rice cooker or pot stayed in constant rotation, steam rising as another batch prepared. White rice taught the principle of foundation building. It taught that staple foods created the structure upon which flavor and nutrition were built. The family with a bag of rice was secure, knowing that hunger could always be addressed. That massive bag represented foresight and economic wisdom. Buying in bulk saved money, and rice was the ultimate bulk purchase. It was not exciting on its own, but it was essential, the reliable base that made everything else possible. 10. Oxtails. Before oxtails became expensive delicacies in upscale restaurants, they were affordable cuts purchased by Black families who understood their value. These bony, gelatinous segments of tail required long cooking, but rewarded patience with fall-off-the-bone tenderness and gravy so rich it seemed impossible. Oxtails were browned first, then braised for hours with onions, garlic, peppers, and tomatoes. The resulting dish was transcendent. Meat so tender it melted, gravy so thick and flavorful it needed nothing but rice or bread to complete the meal. 1 pound of oxtails, cooked properly, could feed a family of 6 because the gravy and rice did the stretching. Oxtails taught that time was an ingredient as valuable as any spice. They taught that cheap cuts could outshine expensive ones if you knew how to handle them. The family eating oxtails was connected to Caribbean influences, to African cooking traditions, to a global Black diaspora that recognized the same cuts and prepared them with similar love. Those oxtails represented culinary sophistication hidden in humble packaging. Proof that the best food was not always the most expensive. It was the food prepared with knowledge and care. And that's the first 10 groceries Black families relied on. Money was tight back in the 70s. If you grew up eating any of these, or if your family had their own budget-friendly staples, I'd love to hear your memories in the comments. What foods do you think should make it into part 2? Make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next video, because we're just getting started and part 2 is going to bring even more nostalgic essentials from a time when every dollar had to stretch. See you there.